Alright, so Temple of VTech here. We're back at the Streets of Willow Springs in Rosemont, California, wrapping up our test track day with the 2006 Civic Si project car. Now this day didn't quite go as we planned. We would have liked to have really tested a couple things that we weren't able to at this point. Number one, our Avon tires. We took the race tires out to a brief autocross test, and unfortunately they corded after a short 7 or 8 laps. We think it was probably a defective tire because 3 of the tires looked beautiful. One simply corded in an unusual area, so we'll have to assume that's just luck of the draw. So we had to get some different tires in the car, ended up mounting some used 235/40/17 Toyo RA1s. Now Toyos are one of my favorite DOT race tires because they last a long time, they're very durable, they're reasonably sticky, and they're relatively easy to set up for. So we got a used set from some good friends of ours over at Special Projects. They'd had a couple races on them, they were definitely beat up, they were down to almost the end of their life, but they still worked for us and they're definitely better than street tires. The second problem we had was that our new adjustable rear sway bar from ASR, A-Spec Racing, broke on us at the very first session. ASR expected that this might happen. It was a prototype setup with some stuff welded together, and we actually broke the mounting bracket. We tried to repair it, got it back out, and it immediately broke again in the second session. So we essentially did our whole day without a rear sway bar. Surprisingly, the car actually didn't handle too badly given that, but it could have rotated a lot better in the end, and we think that definitely cost us some time. The final thing that happened to us, as we mentioned in one of our other segments, is that we had to change the front shocks on our Progress Group suspension. Progress had come back to us with new settings, new shock dampings, and new front camber setups for the car, but it really wasn't enough front camber for what we wanted to do. So we went back to the old shock setup in the front and used some camber bolts to adjust out some of that excessive front camber so we could clear our race tires and race wheels. Unfortunately, we don't know if it's just a bounce stop, a bump stop difference, or if it's a damping difference, or maybe we just need to go back and do a third iteration of the shocks with Progress. But we had a lot of axle windup and kind of wheel hop out of tight corners with the wheels turned. You really couldn't apply much gas at all until you straightened out the wheel. If you did, the car would felt like it was kind of bouncing up and down over the bumps. This limited our ability to put down power out of corners, which in the end limited our lap times a little bit too. We were able to drive around it, and in fact it probably wasn't a bad teaching tool to force us to straighten out our wheel before we applied too much power, which is the way you should do it, but it didn't allow us to kind of cheat some of the corners and get those extra times. Nonetheless, we were pretty darn fast. Our unofficial times for the day are in the low 133s. By comparison, we were in the 138s the last time out on a totally stock car with street tires. We think that with the rear sway bar, we would have probably picked up at least another half second, maybe even a second a lap. And with fresh tires, there's probably another half second to a second a lap as well. And who knows what the suspension calibrations would have done. Our goal was to try and shoot for a 131. We were about 1.5 seconds off from where we needed to be to get there, but given that we had some issues today, we think the car is definitely capable of it. What we did like was the engine. Had no problems with the engine at all whatsoever today. Pulled strong from off idle all the way to the rev limiter, allowed us to build a tremendous speed on the straightaways, pulled cleanly, rev smoothly, no detonation, no misfires, didn't seem to be running lean or hiccuping or anything. Very, very happy with the engine performance so far. Also, we didn't burn a drop of oil, at least according to the dipstick, on the track today. And that says something because high revving Honda motors, you do expect them to burn a little bit. This K-Series motor, not a drop. We're very happy with that. So this is Shawn Church for the Temple of VTEC signing off from the streets of Willow Springs.